There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. Here's another wee book haul. 3 books on a Wednesday night this week. And the first one is very exciting. This is a uncorrected proof of the Irish novelist Rónán Hession's forthcoming 3rd novel, Ghost Mountain. Those of you that saw it, I had Rónán Hession as one of my very first mystery guests on my Friday Reads about a month or 6 weeks ago. After he had released the cover to the world, and after that he sent me this proof. So I'll put a link to that chat. I love the mystery component of having mystery guests on my Friday Reads, but it also, it's kind of hard to find because it's a surprise. I put the author's name or website or something in the show notes, but anyway, I'll put the link with the timestamp of where you can find Rónán telling us all about this book and about the fabulous artwork. And here is my copy, which I am very excited to have, with a lovely inscription. Here is the opening paragraph and the chapter, if it's a chapter. Yeah, they're looks like very short chapters, and the first chapter is called Ghost Mountain. It was, in the ordinary sense of the word, a mountain. Emerging from the surrounding unfamous landscape, it was higher than all around it, though not very high. Limpet-shaped, its crest was bare and rounded, like a knee. It faced in all directions without preference, as mountains do. It obstructed both light and wind, but so too did it bring out their personalities. Light, accommodating and peaceful, addressed the mountain with shade and contrast, whereas wind, which is never the same twice, often became exercised by it. From one aspect there appeared to be 2 hollows, sitting like sunken sockets about halfway up its slope. A 3rd hollow lay between but below the first 2, creating what looked like a haunted expression, though the mountain did not, strictly speaking, ever express itself. When the time came to give it a name, it would be called Ghost Mountain, because of those hollows. Well, that sets the scene, doesn't it? And here is, if I'm remembering correctly, the Avant Guard Australian writer Gerald Murnane's most widely known, most famous novel, Border Districts. I had a chat with James Morrison about him in my Zooming In series. I'll put a link to that, and I'm pretty sure that the article that we discussed, or James himself, said that this was one of Murnane's most well-known works. The premise of it is that a man moves from a capital city to a remote town where he will spend his final years, which sounds like Gerald Murnane in a nutshell, who apparently was born in Melbourne in 1939. It says right here on the inside back flap. I'm scared to see how long the first sentence is. Oh, it's not so long. I think this is one of his earlier works, so there's the sentences don't seem to be 1.5 pages long. So I'm going to read the first 2 paragraphs. 2 months ago, when I first arrived in this township, just short of the border, I resolved to guard my eyes, and I could not think of going on with this piece of writing unless I were to explain how I came by that odd expression. I got some of my schooling from a certain order of religious brothers, a band of men who dressed each in a black soutane with a bib of white celluloid at his throat. I learned by chance last year, and 50 years since I last saw anyone wearing such a thing, that the white bib was called a Rabat, and was a symbol of chastity. Among the few books that I brought here from the capital city is a large dictionary, but the word Rabat is not listed in it. The word may well be French, given that the Order of Brothers was founded in France. In this remote district, I am even less inclined than I was in the suburbs of the capital city to seek out some or other obscure fact. Here, near the border, I am even more inclined than of old to accept as well-founded any supposition likely to complete a pattern in my mind, and then to go on writing until I learn the meaning for me of such an image as that of the white patch which appeared just now against a black ground at the edge of my mind, and will not be easily dislodged. Well, that's fascinating. I think we'd need to read a few more pages to find out what the phrase guarding my eyes means, but I'm already intrigued, and it is much more accessible than the prose in the other novel that I read. I picked this up for $3 at a Saskatoon thrift shop a few weeks back. At that same thrift shop, I got a Buchi Emecheta novel. I've heard her name pronounced two different ways, but it's Buchi Emecheta is the one that sounds the most correct to me. I've also heard it pronounced Emecheta. Somebody can help me with that. And this is called The New Tribe, part of the Heinemann African series. This edition 2000, and perhaps that is the original pub date, I think. The premise is a baby girl abandoned at birth, adopted by, it looks by his name, Reverend Arlington and his wife Ginny, by a white couple, and raised in the UK, I think. Buchi Emecheta is a Nigerian writer born in Lagos. And here's the opening paragraph. When Virginia married the young curate, it came as a surprise to her family and friends. It was, in fact, more than a surprise, it was a shock, since Virginia, properly known as Ginny, was already 34, and it had been tacitly accepted that she would look after her aging parents. Mr. and Mrs. Perkins, retired colonial administrators living in Devon, had had 3 children, the eldest of whom, Robert, had gone successfully through the middle-class rituals of private school, followed by Cambridge, and had gone to seek his fortune in South Africa. Victoria, the youngest and cleverest of the 3, had established herself as a television journalist in Melbourne, Australia. Ginny, the middle child, had settled for staying at home, until, that is, her surprise announcement. On the day of Ginny's wedding, Victoria, who was maid of honor, couldn't help exclaiming, "Goodness, Ginny, to think of you actually getting married." That's what I got. What do you think? Thanks for watching.